Our mini message today comes from Genesis chapter 20, verses 14 through 18. And this wraps this chapter up. It says there, Then Abimelech took some of his sheep and goats, cattle and male and female servants, and he presented them to Abraham. He also returned his wife Sarah to him. Then Abimelech said, Look over my land and choose any place where you would like to live. And he said to Sarah, Look, I'm giving your brother, I love that, 1,000 pieces of silver in the presence of all these witnesses. This is to compensate you for any wrong I may have done to you. This will settle any claim against me, and your reputation is cleared. Then Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech, his wife, and his female servants so they could have children. For the Lord had caused all the women to be infertile because of what had happened to Abraham's wife, Sarah. Okay. I like that little section there in verse 16 where he says, I'm giving your brother, and the New Living Translation actually puts in quotation marks, 1,000 pieces of silver. That was Abimelech's dig at the situation. That was kind of him, kind of throwing a little, in modern terms, throwing a little shade at Abraham. I thought it was great. So there's a couple things happening here. Number one, he shows this generosity to Abraham by giving him these things. What should have happened here is Abraham should have been giving him stuff, right? Abraham had no moral high ground here. Abraham had done the wrong. It was a little bit of him kind of heaping hot coals on top of his head, like it talks about in the book of Romans, that here Abimelech had been done wrong, but Abraham is the one that he gives gifts to. It's like saying, you did me wrong, but I'm still going to treat you right. And I think a lot of this he was also doing for Sarah. If you notice back there in verse 16 again, he says, I'm giving your brother 1,000 pieces of silver in the presence of all these witnesses. This is to compensate you. We haven't changed who's being talked to here. Sarah is still the kind of the object of the sentence. So that compensate you for any wrong I may have done to you. This will settle any claim against me, and your reputation is clear. So at the heart of this also, I think he's trying to take care of Sarah. I think he genuinely feels bad that Sarah's reputation had been wrong. I think he fired a few shots over the bow at Abraham for the way that he had conducted himself, as he probably should have. And there's some admirable about that. I mean, here's a guy, he's a pagan king. He's not worshiping the Lord. But when God spoke to him, he was obedient. He did listen. He did follow through. He did return Sarah. And he did even, take this into account and do some things to try to make restitution for her. Whether it was adequate or not, whatever she thought, we don't really necessarily know, but I think it was a good step and a good move on his part. He showed some character here when Abraham didn't. And like I said in one of the previous messages about this chapter, that's sad, but it's true. Now, if you remember, there's one other thing that I find very interesting in this. When you go back, Abraham would not accept any of the spoils of battle when he took his 300-man army and got Lot and all of the people and belongings back from the kings that had raided the Sodom. He wouldn't take anything. He said, nope, won't let any man make me rich. Only God. All glory goes to God. He had some moral high ground there. He lost his moral high ground. And so he had to accept this. So as I look at this whole chapter and sum it up, Abraham lost his standing with these people. He damaged his witness. He couldn't really have a lot to say about God or about holiness, about any of these things because of what he had done in his life. He had damaged that. It wasn't that God was done with him. It wasn't that God's grace and mercy still weren't there for him, but it was that he had simply damaged his reputation on a high level with Abimelech and the people of this town. So he lost that. We can't allow ourselves to do that. It's one of the reasons why we guard ourselves, not only for our personal fellowship with the Lord, but also because we're called to be lights to the world. So we have to guard ourselves in our actions, our conduct, and our words so that remains pure as we can be. Have a great day. See you guys later.